Rue Nation, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Really means a lot. I wanted to make a mini video, not really a podcast, but building your clinical research hub and some real world lessons from me. So, first of all, what is a clinical research hub? And I guess these days that could mean a lot of different things, but it is effectively a site. But the word hub implies that it is more than just one site. So, what I operate at Yuma Clinical Trials is a hub and spoke model. So, we have a central office that sort of evolved over time. We basically got it because we outgrew the physician's offices where we started out. When we started out as an embedded site within a doctor's private practice. We still have that as some space for studies with that doctor, but we've outgrown it. And some of our other specialists didn't have that kind of space for us to use in their office. And on top of that, our existing PI that we did embed our site within his practice ran out of room. Once you do more than like 4 trials at a time, you need rooms of storage for the lab kits, the investigational product, the supplies. I mean, the sheer volume of items you get sent per study is unbelievable. So you run out of space really quickly, but 4 studies is actually enough. 3, 4 studies is enough to get enough revenue going so that you can build a hub. And if you're following the blueprint, because the blueprint's very important, guys and girls, the blueprint's very important for you to follow because you don't want to be too dependent on any one PI ever in your life. And you don't want to be too dependent on one therapeutic area. Now, I know there are some sites that are successful at just honing in on one very narrow therapeutic area, or I guess specialty. There's a lot of sites in the CNS space that do nothing but this. There's a lot of sites in the cardio space, derm. I get it. I get it. But if you are somebody looking to diversify, somebody looking to expand, somebody looking for growing your opportunities, there's nothing wrong with becoming specialized over time, or maybe your PI likes a certain kind of study. That's fine. I think the best defense against market volatility is having diversity of capabilities that you can do at your site. So ultimately, if you follow this blueprint, you're going to need a hub as well. And then you can have many hubs. So we have our hub, Yuma Clinical Trials. If you go to our website, the first thing you see on our website is a video tour. Kind of goes through our hub and then it goes through some of our spokes. Now, that's just Yuma. There is a city 20 miles from us, right near the Mexican border, called San Luis, Arizona. We just signed and got accepted an MO for partnering with another health system out there. And we're going to add to our capabilities and expand into a different and a new geographic area. We're going to expand 2 new specialties and replicate internal medicine out there. Now, we're going to start there within the doctor's private practice. But I predict after 2 or 3 or 4 studies, we're going to need to get a hub out there as well. So, this is what you got to do when you are expanding geographically. And then when you are expanding locally, your hub, once you have established your hub locally, it gives you more bargaining power for expanding your therapeutic areas. So, for example, we have the potential to work with an oncologist, actually at both locations in Yuma and in San Luis. So, it's helpful if we have a hub to tell the oncologist, hey, we're happy to work out of your office, but we actually have our own. If you prefer, we can put both addresses on the 1572. That way we have some flexibility. The monitors have some space as to where they can go, and we can figure out sort of what visits are going to go under which site and when we're going to do it. But to create this hub, the infrastructure you actually need is not a lot. Like really the assembling of the talent is the hardest part. So beyond just the PIs, obviously without a PI, you can't have any site. You can't do studies if you don't have a PI. But we're always having to hire prac and we're always looking for the best of the best. I mean, there's no one in this region that is trained in research. So we're looking for the best MAs, the best international medical graduates, the best phlebotomists that are local, so they're not moving here for us, and putting them, giving them the training. So they all go through the CRC Academy, and then giving them things to do, having them shadow, do some data entry, do some patient recruitment, create some source, and slowly start getting into the workflow of being a coordinator. So that's part of the laying the foundation. I think it's assembling the right team, but also you might need the tech stack. And the good thing about creating your first hub is it's a lot easier to create your second one because now you just replicate what you have here over there. So we're rolling in our same tech stack, Creo, Patient Ace, a couple other tools, Inato for business development, Monday.com. That's pretty much our tech stack. We're rolling that into, we're replicating that at every hub and spoke that we create after this. So laying the foundation is the most important part. Diversifying the revenue streams beyond just, hey, this is our bread and butter, obesity, for example, or psychiatry. Well, why not do them all? Like, why not have, if your doctors, if you have enough doctors and they're all willing to do it, you can actually specialize within your hub. So we didn't intend to start this way, but what has happened organically is certain staff that gravitate more towards psychiatry, work on the psych studies, certain staff that like the respiratory, do more of that. Yes, there's overlap and everyone kind of is cross-trained, but people kind of pick their affinities, and that's ultimately what you want. As long as the workload is distributed fairly, that's kind of what you want. Now, streamlining the workflows is important, and I think with AI, we're getting a lot of automations coming through, and it's making the implementing these efficient processes easier when it comes to patient recruitment, like I discussed, Patient Ace. When it comes to data management, we use Gleam, which is a brand new product. Creo is our eSource, eReg, CTMS, Inato for the biz dev, DSCS, my other company, our consulting services for the budgets, contracts, that kind of stuff. So this is like the must-have. And then we encourage the staff at the other hubs to figure out what they like, right? Because I can't be the site director of all these places. A matter of fact, I need to start delegating once I have more. Right now, we only have one hub and spoke. We're about to get our second. Prior to that move, I need to have a site director at Yuma, and then I need to start grooming a site director for the other site. And then when we expand further, same thing. So we encourage them, hey, if you like a new tool or you find something that works, I mean, this is what the big site networks are doing. Bring it to our team meetings when the site directors have meetings and discuss, and then let's share how we can implement these things. Now, talent retention is probably the hardest thing. So you got to keep your staff, and this is the hardest part. This is where you cannot run the business like a tyrant. Uh, you have to show the employees, and in my case, like I actually want this from them. I want the best for them, even if it means not working for us. But For as long as it makes sense for them to work with us, I want them to stay as long as possible. And then if they've earned it, I want to be able to match. I want first option on matching them if another company comes and says, "Hey, we're going to make you an offer you can't refuse." I want to have that opportunity to match them. Now, sometimes it doesn't make sense financially, and you congratulate them, and hopefully you have an ally for life in the industry. It's a small but big industry at the same time, so keep that in mind. But talent retention is tough, and if you're in a competitive market, like I'm not even in a competitive market, my talent retention is industry wide. Like the state, they move somewhere else, and then they'll they'll get hired. Now, if I have enough hub and spokes, theoretically I'll have a place for them wherever they move, but we're too small right now. That's not possible. Having strategic partnerships. So this is where you want those medical science liaisons with those pharmas, where you want to go to things like Save Our Sites and network with sponsors that show up. We have Eli Lilly that came. We have GlaxoSmithKline that came. We've had Alto Neurosciences that came. We've had Takeda to come to SOS. We're gonna keep getting more and more pharmaceutical and biotech sponsors. You want to have strategic partnerships. I just had a meeting earlier with a CRO. We had a study from the past. Sponsor went bankrupt. CRO kind of took a hiatus. Nobody was getting paid. The site, us, we ended up closing ourselves out with the IRB and destroyed the IP and documented everything as per GCP. But the CRO came back and said, "Hey, would you be willing to work with us to close out properly?" And we hashed a few things out. We said, "Yeah, because we want a good relationship with you, because we want future studies." And we had a pretty good relationship with the CRO. And same thing with sponsors. The best relationship you can get with a CRO or a sponsor, if you're a site, is to do good work. That's the bottom line. But in order to get exposed to these opportunities, things like Save Our Sites, things like talking to your medical science liaisons, even academic institutions, there's a lot, and I predict a lot more is coming because of the Doge budget cuts from this administration. There's a lot more coming public-private partnerships. We got our first study here in Yuma from one of these academic institutions that I guess had last-minute budget cuts, but they still needed to do the study. So they ended up becoming the sponsor and outsourcing the study to community sites, presumably because we do it cheaper and for less overhead. But there's a lot of that too. So even the academic institutions, and there's individuals at these institutions. Ultimately, what are organizations and institutions, even the big ones? They're a collection of people. So those people can move on to other places. They can give you pointers. They can be a resource for your site, for your hub. So this is how I've built my research hub, continuing to build. Future proofing it is important. This is why I think I can't predict. I'm not smart enough to predict what therapeutic areas are going to be hot 5 years from now. All I know is if I can get a nephrologist to start doing studies for me, it's better than not having a nephrologist. Because if nephrology gets hot, and sometimes by getting hot, you only need one well-paying study to make up for it. So we have a new nephrologist. We've been trying to get her a study for a while. We have a pulmonologist. He's also a sleep specialist. I've been trying to get sleep studies. We have a cardiologist. We have a dermatologist. We have internal. Now we're opening up hopefully pediatrics and OB and possibly oncology. I'm trying to future-proof my site so we're not dependent on just one type of trials like CNS or vaccines, even though people are making 8, 9, 10 figures running these kind of sites and site networks. To me, that's a couple of things. That's boring. I don't like to be just doing one thing. And number two, if there's an appetite from your community, with the existing infrastructure you've already built, it's easier to make and generate new streams of revenue as opposed to building on your existing streams of revenue and making those existing ones more efficient and tighter. Now, there's an argument to be said about doing both. It's just a matter of philosophy. But I think diversifying your means of production as a site is super important for your future-proofing your hub and the growth and impact that it has. And then, of course, things like embracing the new technologies, embracing AI, embracing even things that we don't like decentralized clinical trials. Play around with these things, understand what these things are. There's so many tech vendors out there that want proof of concept from a site. You might even be able to have an efficiency gain, or maybe you'd be able to get some advisory shares in one of these companies. That's what I did. Ultimately, that's why I'm here. That's why I like doing what I'm doing, and that's why I like documenting the journey on my channel. This video's already gone longer than I wanted. It's bordering on a podcast, but I'm going to keep it short. Let me know what you think. If you guys like this topic, I will do a deep dive on it. Like, subscribe, comment, share. My dogs are telling me it's over. Bye bye.